Today we are going to go over a potential snowstorm that is again popping up in the models just after the winter storm Izzy, which has dropped humongous snow totals across parts of the eastern U.S., including the northeast, mid-Atlantic, and also southeast. But there's already looks like there's going to be another one that we're going to have to watch across the same regions that just experienced snowstorm. So yeah, we're going to have to look into that, and we will do so. By the way, it's not yet 100% and guaranteed, but we're still going to go over it because there's an increasing amount of certainty that this is going to happen. But again, we're still not sure yet because even though we're just 4 to 5 days out, there's still lack of confidence in there. So obviously it's something to look at. If you're new and have not done so, please make sure to like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Leave a comment below if you have any questions or want your local forecast. Share this video with your family and friends if you're at risk for any kind of hazardous winter weather. Now let's get diving into the snowstorm. 4 separate models. You can see there is the European model. Going about 6 days out from now, you can see that there, according to this model, there would be a swath of foot of snow across the East Coast from Virginia, North Carolina area, extending northeastward along the coast, all the way into eastern Canada, which, by the way, is possible a path for the snow ban and the storm overall, but we're not looking too concerning about the snow totals just yet. Obviously, we're not going to focus too much on that, just on the overall snowstorm and everything. Lighter snow, obviously, if you look into the... So yeah, this is actually the northernmost scenario according to the models I've seen so far, which we'll get into. So the other models will only go further south with this, and probably lighter as well. So yeah, this is all expected to occur if it does happen, mostly over next weekend, this coming weekend, and also a little late this week. Looking at the Canadian model, as you can tell, like I was saying before, model, you can see there is a more southern track to this and also lighter, because we're still looking at 4 to 5 days out. This is just how the storm finishes up across the U.S. as a whole. Again, mostly impacting southeastern U.S. and East Coast if this were to occur. Any kind of scenario whatsoever. So yeah, the heaviest amounts would be across the Virginia Beach area and also Maryland, southern Maryland. The Maryland Peninsula, obviously, and that little island there in Virginia too, obviously. And then most of the snow just goes off the shore and mostly ends up in the northwest Atlantic, just off the coast of the northeast. So it's mostly just kind of a minor windstorm for just parts of the mid-Atlantic, southeast. And then it completely goes offshore. Now we got the GFS here. As you can see, there is another kind of similar scenario, except literally just even farther south than the last model we looked at. And then mostly going offshore, as we just mentioned, same thing as the Canadian model, GFS here. And then, even though this will occur soon, I'm not really certain if this will be an actual winter storm, which is why I'm not doing too much coverage on that today, and might not do so. We're just focusing on the larger event, which is going to be looking more likely as time goes on, and that has been the case over the past day or so, with more models agreeing on it, but still uncertainty. From more of a northern track to a more southern track, that's just kind of a good example of why we're looking at a variety of solutions and scenarios. But again, you got generally light amounts, but maybe a little heavier across the Carolinas, the same areas that got hammered by an ice storm. And then we have the UK model. And except it kind of just rides up along the East Coast, and then it starts to go offshore, just barely starting in Florida, and then from there it kind of gives the southern East Coast some decent snowfall amounts, and then heading into Chesapeake Bay Area, it just kind of goes offshore, and then And there's barely any snow at all except for maybe like these areas. Like as you can see, there's lighter snowfall amounts too across these areas. Obviously New York City, Rhode Island, Boston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC, so yeah. And then there's also going to be a growing ice concern over some similar areas that have seen that whopping ice storm the past day. So we're going to get looking into that. Also here, the first is the GFS. As you can see, there are some pretty crippling amounts again. Except maybe the snowfall amounts focus like a little farther south than the last crippling ice storm, but then some of the same areas over here, like getting another ice storm after they just received one like a day ago or something. And then we got amounts creeping upwards of 1 inch across central southern Georgia, which is very concerning, but fortunately this is like 5 days out. So we don't want to get too concerning about these just yet, but it is a concern that's starting to appear in the models too. And there is another scenario too, obviously, which would be the Canadian if you already didn't know. It has like 2 different areas of freezing rain, one of which would be along the Gulf Coast, and even barely slipping into the northwest Florida panhandle. There's some ice there too. And the heaviest amounts would be like the southern Alabama area. And then you also got some, like, ice storm across southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi. And then you got this whole other area here across the Carolinas with similar amounts too, obviously, up to ½ inch. This is definitely like concerning, especially if you looked at the GFS once again, which over 1 inch. We're not putting amounts on either of the precipitation types yet. But as things start to become clearer, we will do so, which we'll probably do in the next update, which will be in the next couple days or so. But again, here's a sneak peek of what could be going on with this next storm, which some models are starting to show. Well, many models. And then you got some models that are just kind of all over the place with this. And then bringing examples, snow like over here, and then one other model is like all the way over here. And then one model would bring the ice like kind of over here, and then one of those drags that's had a freezing rain swath further down to like Louisiana, which is kind of interesting because there's definitely tons of model uncertainty as you've seen, obviously. And then look at this, there's a gap across southern Georgia and the far eastern Alabama, which GFS seems to think is going to be the most hammered by this. And again, we're not going to be like ice amounts like 5 days out. We just put a model forecast and then it just ends up totally changing. And especially with all this uncertainty in some areas that receive like 1 foot of snow according to one model and nothing on another. And then 1 inch of ice on one model and none on another. Which is what we're seeing here, an example of this winter storm like upcoming. So yeah, not really going to do anything with maps right now, but in the next update I will, as things become clearer, and if this model trends continue, we will put out some forecasts, that should be it for today's forecast. If so, just another reminder, subscribe to this channel if you've not done so, like this video if you did enjoy the forecast and want to see more, and then comment any suggestions, local forecasts, or questions below. Stay notified and continue to receive updates. Be safe and have a good day.